Hey, everybody, welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
I'm James Cordy.
Yeah, we are live at VARTECH 2024 in Orlando, Florida. Yeah. That's right. We got a live crowd in-house, so you will know firsthand whether we are actually fun or interesting in person on this podcast. As always, the digital marketing genius, James Cordy, is joining us.
Yep.
Today, we're going to be talking about web design, social media, your digital presence, what works, what doesn't, how can you improve that aspect of your business. Finally, some of you brave souls submitted your websites for our review, so we'll take a look at those, give you some feedback on what can be improved, and also what we loved about it. And I promise we'll be very gentle and nice. Well, again, I will. Cordy, this is the guy you got to watch out for. Who knows what he's going to say? So sit back, relax, enjoy the show. It's time to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, as I mentioned, our topic today, what does your digital presence say about you? Corey, I think you floated this one past me, didn't you? This is what your suggestion was, wasn't it?
Yes, I've actually been thinking about content centered around website feedback for a long time. It's one of those things that I know well. I mean, I've been building on the web since I was about 15 years old. I'm 42 years old, so this goes back to the GeoCities days. If anybody out there remembers those days, somebody just thought, hell yeah, GeoCities. But anyway, been wanting to do this.
They're not going to say it, though.
Yeah, no, right.
They thought it. It's the crossroads of something that I think I know pretty well and something that I think would be valuable to our partners. So yeah, that's why I wanted to dig into it.
All right. Well, then let's start off. Let's talk about web design. Now, what are your ideas of what makes good web design? What are some maybe some new and popular practices you're starting to see show up out there?
Sure. So I'll start by kind of laying out two pillars. So websites have technical aspects to them, right? Such as search optimization, such as load time, how quickly does a page load when someone requests it, and then as well, whether a site is responsive or optimized for a mobile device. So there's the technical piece of a website. And this is the part that frankly I'm more interested in, which is the creative or the messaging side. John, like you kind of named this panel, what does it say about you? Is it telling the story that you want to tell? Is it telling a story at all, or does it just have a bunch of products on it, right? So those are the two pillars, is the creative and the technical. Now, if you guys don't mind, I'll lay out what I believe that a website should do, especially websites in our industry, websites that BlueStar might have, or websites you all would build. Number one, and this is on the technical side, is to be discoverable when people are searching for you. Often when we're talking about SEO, we're talking about showing up for key terms related to the products and services that we sell, which is ideal. But like the base level SEO optimization is someone types in your company's name. Are you showing up, organically high or not? So that's number one, very important. Another one would be, does it just at the basic level, is it reflecting a professional image? Or does someone load your website and think, I don't know if this is a company I want to do business with. These guys who I've obviously worked with, worked with for a long time, know that I put a lot of stock into a website. When we're working with software partners or really any kind of new partner, the very first thing I do is open a web browser and go check them out online and go, ooh, these guys look like they got their game together. Mm-hmm. And I've been fooled before because a website is a facade, right? Literally. But I think it holds a lot of weight. So does it reflect professionally? Does it optimize for mobile devices? Does it explain your differentiator? I think that's a key one, right? Because a lot of us sell in areas, or we sell technologies that are competitive. There's others that sell those products. Are we giving people, or better said, are we telling the story on our website as to why us, right? So are we telling a story? Are we telling a clear story? I think, again, my opinion, that websites do give us the ability to tell a bit of a linear story with the scroll, whether on a mobile device or on a desktop computer. And are we thinking about designing, writing the messaging on our site in that way? To kind of introduce people as to exactly what we do in plain language and then go deeper and, give them proof and all that good stuff. And then I kind of just teased my next one, which is, are we including some proof, right? It's one thing for us to say that we're great at this, we're experts in barcoding or POS or digital signage or whatever it is that we're playing in, but are there logos of some of our accounts, which I know can be a double-edged sword, right? Hey, we're showing some off, but do we want to reveal who our clients are? Are we showing testimonials or maybe case studies or things like that that really back up the claims we're making on the site? So those are some of the things I think that we can use to kind of evaluate these sites. These are the things that I think are really important when it comes to building an awesome website.
So a couple things real quick, back on the technical side, one of the things that we always talk about is responsiveness made for mobile.
Yep.
You want to comment on that? Because we still come across websites today that are not mobile friendly. And it's like, when you look at the data of how many people visit BlueStarInc.com, I believe it's at least 50% when you look at usage, or right around there, give or take 10%, on mobile. So that's like one of those foundational things, right?
You're absolutely right. And I think our stats, like you said, are about 50-50. I think probably, well, who knows? I think for us, we have a larger majority of desktop visitors than the average website these days.
Right.
But to your point, super important that when someone is loading your website, your menu isn't off the screen where they got to kind of scroll over to the side or what have you. And in fact, not only is it a usability factor, meaning that it's easy to find menus and that things are fitting the screen the way that they should, whether a website is mobile optimized or not can actually affect how search engines rank you. And that's actually been the case for quite some time. So yeah, it's an important thing, and it's one of those things that nowadays, and John, to your question from before, one of the ways that the web has changed is that there are plenty of frameworks, like the WordPresses of the world, or a lot of the different platforms people are using to build sites, where the themes that you start with are mobile optimized by default. It's really become pretty commonplace. So if you are in a situation where your website isn't optimized for mobile, I'm not saying you got to go and rebuild the whole thing, because optimizing a website for mobile is really a style issue, meaning there's code of a website, there's HTML, PHP, whatever code your website is written in, and then there's the CSS, which stands, well, not important, it's the style. It tells a website how big fonts are, what color fonts are, how images should be aligned. That style information is also what tells a web browser, hey, when someone is on a small device with a viewport of 760 pixels or smaller, bring everything in and center it all. So it can be not too heavy of a lift if this is something that still needs to happen to your site. Get in touch with a developer friend and say, hey, write me some CSS and get my website together.
The other thing, maybe you touched on a little bit is on the design side. Because you're right, we see websites all the time, and we always comment on them. And if we're looking for a new partner and you have a really bad website, that's like the first flag that, oh, yeesh. So we often talk about simplicity, I guess, in design, right? Because one of the other things that we see, the trap that a lot of people get into, is just trying to dump a lot of information, like everything on the website, and it's not really organized, not very clean, not very simple. Maybe comment on that a little bit, or what do you think there?
Yeah, so I feel like often when we sit down to talk about ourselves or our businesses, it's tough to really take steps back and pretend like we have no context. Which, not that your visitors are often going to have zero context as to what you do. They got there somehow, right? You sent them an email, they searched Google or whatever the case. But in some of the sites we'll look at, I think you'll see evidence of this, where people are jumping a couple of steps and starting to tell you things you're not ready for about what they do. And then I think we'll also see some very good examples where people will say really plainly, in that header area of their website, what we used to call kind of above the fold. I mean, I guess we still call it that.
Yep.
But
I do.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think it's a newspaper term, but it's still relevant, depending on the device and what have you. But yeah, I do think that keeping in mind that our visitors don't know anything about us. And so it's important to really start at the first base, right? What exactly do you do? That's what your headline should say. So the header of your website, the headline you have up there should be simple. I'm going to get tactical because it's my favorite thing to do. I would guess in this room, we probably somewhere around half of your guys' websites have like a rotating banner in the header. Can anyone think about their website that has a rotating banner in the header? I looked this stat up because I've been aware of this for a number of years, but I didn't know what the statistics were. The first position banner on your website in the header gets 40% of the clicks. The others, the second gets 18, the next gets 11 or whatever. So the data suggests that it's not a good use of that that space. That you should have a single image or just a single, however you decide to deal with it, message, and tell whatever you have in the rest of that carousel, tell that as the user scrolls. Like I kind of said earlier, I like to think about web design as being linear. What are they going to see when they land? To make sure they know exactly what we're talking about, what we do, what problem we solve, and then as they scroll, oh, by the way, we have a couple different solutions. And by the way, here are a few of our happy customers. Here's a couple quotes and testimonials. So yeah, I think the way that I would put it simply is make sure that you're doing your best to put yourself in their shoes and that they have little to no context as to who your business is. And if you start at level 2 or level 3, you're going to lose some people. And those visits are going to bounce, as we say in the web world.
Good stuff, man. I won't add too much more to that other than I think some of the better websites that I see these days are the ones that have kind of that mirror that app feel.
Yeah.
And I think there's twofold. That one, you accomplish that, mobile, the mobile aspect of it where you're kind of mirroring that and you're kind of making it mobile ready. But also, it's just what people are used to. Everyone's got a phone. Everyone's got tablets. Mm-hmm. They're used to what apps look like and feel like. So I find more and more websites are starting to kind of mirror that so they feel like an app and that intuitive way that we mess around with apps. Like everybody knows the little hamburger thing, up in the corner, which is where the menus usually are. That used to be not something you'd ever see on a website. Mm-hmm. And now I see a lot of standard websites that have that little notch up there and they don't have to say menu anymore or click here to find more stuff. There's much more of that because again, people intuitively understand that. And again, if they're on mobile, they're going to know exactly where they're supposed to go. And I think that's a big part of, to me, good web design too, is that your customers, when they land on your site, know what you want them to do next.
Absolutely.
Well, and let's also talk a little bit about the content, being the content expert that you are. Riff on that for a little bit. I mean, because again, I'll just go back to the fact that I think a lot of folks feel like they got to get as much information on their website as possible.
Right.
And to me, that's not really necessarily what you want to do. I think you want to tell a story.
Right.
You want to give people enough information that they can, appease whatever they were looking for, contextually. But I don't know that you're dumping everything on there, right?
No.
Type of thing. So yeah, what are your comments?
Well, if you're filling up your front page with a bunch of tiles trying to get people to go to different places and read different things and do different things, right? Then you might be losing the game already because you're gonna, again, it's a little too overwhelming and you're not going to get them where you want them to go. They're still not going to have a good idea or a good picture of who you are and what you do. Like I think of our website, for instance, we've redesigned it. It's not like when you click on our homepage that it immediately says, go to BlueStar Nation, here's our 5 latest end user surveys that we've done. We could do that, but we're not going to. And to be honest, most of what we're doing there is being led there through other channels and you can find that stuff from our site, but we're not front-loading that with a desperate desire to get you to consume content. I know if there's any of you that make good content, and as someone who also loves making content, that kills you sometimes when you're like, but I made this great thing. Why aren't we showing it to everybody? But it's just not the purpose of a landing page on a website when you're first starting off. Would you agree with that?
Yeah,
Cody?
well, I will caveat that we do have links to our articles on the homepage. They're at the very bottom.
Okay, it's not obvious. It's not hitting you in the face from the beginning, right?
Correct. They're at the bottom. And one thing I'll add that we're planning to experiment with, does anyone in the room happen to use HubSpot or have their website built on HubSpot, which I know is not the same thing? So we've recently built on HubSpot, and I imagine if it's true there, that it might be true on some other platforms. We have an ability to show a different version of really any page, but I think it's extra relevant for a homepage. A different version to a new user, someone that's never been to BlueStarInc.com versus a returning visitor. So if we assume that a new user might be looking to sign up as a customer, we want to make sure that we're telling that story versus someone who's been there 100 times. We don't have to explain to them exactly who we are. We might cut to the chase a little bit more and make some assumptions that maybe they're looking for product promotions or vendor microsites or things like that. So a little bit of an advanced recommendation there, but if you happen to be built on a platform with that capability, it's something worth thinking about because those are pretty distinctly different audiences, right? A current customer or someone that's visited your site a number of times versus someone who, again, potentially is coming in with no knowledge of the problems you solve, the markets you serve, et cetera.
Yeah. I mean, just going back to the content and the importance to me of the words, the imagery, everything about your website, because for us, as we've mentioned, we went through a whole redesign of our website and recently launched it, but that is going to now be the anchor for everything else that we do off of that. So PowerPoint presentations that sales will use, or pamphlets that we may create for trade shows and things of that nature. Really. And I'd love to get your comments on it, because I don't know that we've ever talked about this, but I see the website as being the anchor, because that's where everybody goes, right? I mean, if I'm finding out something about a company, I'm Googling the company, I'm going there. That's the first impression. Mm-hmm. If you're gonna burn calories to create something in your marketing world, really the calories should be spent on the website. So you should really scrutinize the words, the content that you have on there. What is the story that we're telling? How can we condense this? Right. Just to get the information out there, but also to get people to take that next action, which would be to call us, hopefully, or something like that. Thoughts there?
It sounds like, are you creating some new work for us that's coming down the pipeline?
No,
here?
I'm saying, well, I know the incredible amount of work that your team went through in creating our new website. And a lot of that was devoted to how are we going to storytell on this particular page, right?
Why wouldn't we be consistent in other places? Yes. So I'll give an example of exactly what you said. The day before I was leaving to come here, which was last Thursday, Angie, the design team manager at BlueStar, needed a print ad that we had not started on. It was due that day. Actually, I think, Jim, it was for your organization.
I need to put the BlueStar sign up here.
We were late. We were sending a print ad in, and let this play for a minute. So this is our new website. So you'll see right there, it was one of our reps. His name is Austin. He was actually in one of the videos that we showed this morning as well. We thought a lot about the imagery to show in this hero area and the headline. So when I sat down to work on this print ad, which could take me a day and a half, a couple of days in other in previous times, I said, Angie, give me 45 minutes. I grabbed this still image from the video of Austin, and I used a slightly different headline, but same color scheme. It would look like matching luggage, so to speak, if you were looking at this print ad and looking at our website. And then our social channels, they probably have a little bit of work to do, but we'll eventually tell that same story. PowerPoint presentations. We've been using images from that Mr. Schaus video. Again, I don't know that all of you saw it, across our new sales deck. So we, like you said, we spent a lot of time thinking about the story we wanted to tell, the imagery that we wanted to use. We had to create a lot of this imagery, and now we're scaling it across all the different touch points where it makes sense. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that I'll have another opportunity to make this point. It's a really quick one, so I'll make it. One of the things that semi-consciously, I think, has a negative impact for your viewer or viewers of your website is very obvious stock imagery. And I know it's hard to get around, right? We can't all have photos, real photos of our customer sites and things like that. Although if you can somehow incentivize a customer to take a decent photo, even on their, newer iPhone or whatever, man, real people in real settings go a long way. And I would say failing that, there's a tool called Midjourney. You guys know this is my favorite thing to talk about, although I do have a different What's TEConnecting with me, assuming we're going to go down that path. All right. Midjourney is a generative AI image creation tool. Probably some of you played with it or at least heard of it. Yeah. It is incredible. It's $20 a month. There's a free version of it, but it's $20 a month. And the way I describe it is that you can art direct a photo shoot for $20 a month. And it is, just continues to get better. I've taken prompts that I used a year ago and just re-put them into the newest version of the engine, and it's awesome. Because for us, some of you may not know, this is a little bit of an unplanned, shameless plug, but myself and John and our teams, we have marketing programs at BlueStar that are designed to help our reseller partners. We often have needs for images that we would have gone to a stock site for, such as a courier transplanting an organ, right? Oh yeah, I'll get to this in just a sec, but this is nice. Where the heck are we going to go get that? And if we get it, it's going to look terrible and stocky. You go to Midjourney or similar tools, and you write in exactly what you want. What time of day is it? What's the quality of the light? Et cetera, and you get a really cool, kind of fantastical looking image that doesn't look like cheesy stock photography. So, Scott, I see you in here, sir. I know we had a debate about this last year a little bit in terms of the rights and usage of AI. Update, still a little bit fuzzy. I'm not exactly sure what those rights are, but as you can see, we are using them widely on BlueStar Nation.
Is it safe to say that every image here was AI?
The only one that I can see that wasn't is the Epson image.
Epson, yeah.
That's a brand image.
All these other ones have
everything else.
Yeah. All those survey ones definitely are.
And who knows, maybe 5 years from now, if we're all in this room again, it might be that the generative AI images are the new cheesy stock images. But for right now, they're a huge step up from that. So something to think about, because again, I know how difficult it can be to get those assets, but I really do think it's something that people see and go, oh, this isn't real.
Well, since you mentioned the stock image stuff, let's keep going down the rabbit hole of some of the common mistakes and pitfalls that people make in web design. And I also want to talk, because you mentioned earlier, like the WordPresses and the Squarespaces and stuff like that of the world, those easy ways to create and build a website. Do you recommend that people use that kind of stuff, or that they should be, finding professional designers to help build sites? So put both of those together, like your thoughts on getting professional design for your site, as well as some other common mistakes that people tend to do.
So I would say in general, especially for the business owners or the salespeople that are extremely busy in here, yeah, it's probably going to be a great idea to get professional help on designing your site. But I'm also optimistic to a fault. So I am a believer. I mean, there are plenty of platforms out there that have beautiful templates that you can change to your brand colors, upload your logos, again, go and source some of your own imagery. But if you trust yourself or someone within your company to write good messaging, copy, the type of stuff that you would resonate with your customers because it uses their language, yes, I think it's achievable. But also, again, I'm probably underestimating how busy the majority of you are in this room to be building your own website. So heck yeah, go get some professional help. But I would also say, as a big caveat, that I believe a lot of those tools, templatized tools, Squarespaces of the world, WordPresses, are fantastic tools. And it's really about, do we feel confident in our ability to go and tell the story, the visual / story, through words that we're going to need to be effective on our site.
I'll just add on the mistake side of things that, one of my biggest pet peeves is the mobile optimization. I'm not going to keep going down that one because we already talked plenty about it. But the other one is just routine maintenance. I cannot tell you how many times I go to a website and I click a link.
2018.
Yeah, exactly.
Man.
I click a link that no longer goes anywhere, or I go to their blog and the last post was 6 years ago, or the latest video was from 5 years ago or something like that. Or it says they've got a timeline of their business and it stops in 2012 as if they've done nothing since. Stuff like that drives me nuts. So if you're going to commit to making a nice site and you want people there and you want them exploring there, also commit to having somebody who is routinely making updates or just checking links on a regular basis, keeping content up to date, just doing something to make sure that your site doesn't look like it stopped all of a sudden a few years ago and no one's bothered to look at it since.
Yeah,
because things break whether you're playing with them, messing around with them, not. Things can break on their own and you don't even realize it.
For sure. And we use this term a lot, which is that a website is a living document in essence, and you should treat it as such. I don't know what the rule of thumb should be. I don't know. What do we think? Every 2 years, just go peek at your site and peek at some other websites of some high level companies and just go, are we starting to look outdated or are we still in good shape? I think just purely from a visual and design perspective, trends change. Some of what we'll look at with the websites that were submitted, that's some of my feedback is it just could look more polished. The fonts could look better, the spacing could look better. So yeah, always be keeping an eye on that. And then, again, not to steal too much thunder from what we're going to talk about, but I think, Dean, you kind of said this, throwing the kitchen sink at the homepage. And I know, and I even appreciate the mentality of, well, geez, we have their attention, and everyone's heard the statistic. 98% of the people that come to your website are never going to take an action. You're never going to know they're there. That's all true. That doesn't mean that throwing more stuff on the homepage is going to change it. Right? Let's keep it simple. And I'm not saying don't put anything on the homepage. Put offers, put meaningful calls to action on the homepage. We'll get into some more of that in a little bit.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add on mistakes or stuff you see?
No, I mean, I've already kind of hit on the ones that, again, to me are like one of the ones that simplicity, if it's not simple, really culminating and curing through your content to me is really critical, because it's like inviting somebody into your family room. I mean, it is it's your house, right?
Yeah.
And if your house is out of order, then that's the original impression. And people keep going back to your website all the time. Yep. Partners or people that they're doing business with. I mean, it really is, for me, it's like that's your home. Right?
Yeah.
Keep your house in order, kind of a thing. So
I agree. Yeah. All right, well, let's shift over and talk a little bit about social media, because that's the other big aspect of your digital presence. Your website's one thing, but a lot of folks may be engaging with you just on social and never really come to your website. And your social media can talk a lot about who you are and what you do and what you could do for them as well, or drive them hopefully to your site or other places as well. So, Is there a right way to do social media? I know it's a very loaded question. And let's also talk about organic versus paid. Do you have thoughts on when one matters more than the other?
Man, those are two big questions for me that I could
How long we got?
Those could both be podcast episodes. And what was the first part of it again? Is there a right way
Is there a right way to do social media?
So every time I give this answer, I feel bad about it, but it's just the truth. And if I said anything aside from this, it would be true, which is, the right way to do social is to be radically different than the people you're competing with. And it's to be consistent. And it is damn near impossible without someone dedicated to doing that, who is knowledgeable of the platform, skilled in content creation, understanding your industry. And those people aren't easy to find and aren't cheap. But I will say that in years of being at this conference and having, conversations like this, what we hear all the time is, well, what about, aren't there services where we can just kind of grab content? In fact, this came up yesterday in our marketing meetup, and, I didn't want to be negative, but anything that feels like checking a box so that something is there is just that. And it's not going to, would I rather you have blog posts that also show up on 12 other websites and not have them at all? I'd probably rather you not have them at all, because it's not worth the money and the time, right? And so again, the right way to do it, I'll just reiterate, is to be radically different than the other people. That's what we try to do. Sometimes I make the joke, Dean, when you're not around, that I appreciate that you have trust in me, because some of the stuff that we did, even here today, we had people taste testing astronaut food on our trade show floor. That's what we published to LinkedIn. Shameless plug, go follow us on LinkedIn. The day before, we asked people, hey, if you had to give a TED Talk, what would that topic be? We want to feel and look very different than our competitors. We want to, specifically, we want to feel more human and less corporate than our competitors. So you guys have to decide. Maybe you're in a space where the opposite is true. Your competitors are kind of loosey-goosey, and you want to feel really buttoned up and professional. Look, and this is another piece of advice I give all the time. Use your eyes, analyze what's out there, and say, what could we be doing that is very different than what our competitors are doing? And I'll make one more point along these lines before I take a breath, which is, some of the content you create, this is going to sound counterintuitive, especially to salespeople and some of the owners in here. Some of the content you should create should purely be to get people's attention, so that you have it when you want to say something that is not entertaining or fun or exciting. Like, hey, you should join us in Orlando for VARTECH this year, or we're going to be in your city for a smaller event. You have to have their attention before that stuff's ever going to land. And how do you do it? You do what good social media accounts do. I'm not saying you guys have to go become influencers or anything like that, but have some fun in your content and be different. I know it's real simple and easy to say, but you guys are going to have to figure out what that looks like for you. Yeah. There was a second part to your question. We can come back to it.
We'll come back. Let Dean talk a little bit about this part first.
No, I was just going to comment, again, the right way to do social media. I would start off with, social media is important. And I know there was a little bit of a sigh in the room when you were, really saying it's really critically important, because it takes resources to do that, right? I mean, as you said, you should have somebody dedicated towards doing that resource. And I know that's really hard for small to medium-sized businesses to do. So let's comment a little bit about enabling employees, because that's our philosophy, is to enable our employees within certain guidelines, right? I mean, we try to come up with a voice that we use. I'll use air quotes for the voice, what it sounds like, what BlueStar sounds like to folks and things of that nature. But we really do want to enable our employees, because even though we have staff, it's hard for us to keep some ongoing presence within social. So maybe either one of you, because you're both in the content. What are your comments about enabling people on your staff, John, as well?
It's hard. Like, it's hard to. I mean, even when we've got people on staff that are kind of native social experts, younger folks.
Well, I was going to go there,
I think
right?
That's
the
important, yeah.
Well, for sure, right.
So I think if you have those kind of folks that understand how social works, because I admit, there's times when a little bit of social is a little beyond me at this point. I try to keep up, but I also don't really play on social that much myself anymore. So I think having those people that you can rely on, that you can turn to, and Cordy, you just mentioned earlier the whole gastronauts thing. We sent out, Sam Hughes, our social person, and a team of some of our younger staff, and I was out there just literally just holding a tray, helping out with the food, and that was about it. But like, they understand how it works.
Dude. You had a role.
They understand how that stuff works, though. They understand what does make for fun social videos, and as Cordy just said earlier, that's not one that has anything to do with who we are as BlueStar, other than we have this space theme here at VARTECH. we don't make astronaut food. We have nothing to do with food. It has nothing to do with anything. But I promise you that anybody who comes across it is going to stop and pay attention for a moment because it's just something different. If nothing else, seeing a bunch of people go, oh, what is that? Is going to make someone stop and maybe actually watch a video or at least read the subtitles or something, and move and go with it.
People are not going to follow BlueStar in great numbers just to hear about our products. They do want to hear about the product. I hope you guys want to hear about new products if they're relevant to you, but that's not what you log into.
Don't tell the manufacturers that.
Right? No, but again, we need you to follow us so that when we have something cool, or even our product messaging, we try to do in a different style. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but we do a series called Unboxed, where it's designed to look like a YouTube video. We've got cool, colorful lighting in the background, and we've got a desk. And again, I was doing it for a while, then I passed it to Sam. And we want that to be different and more engaging and a style that people are more willing to I guess, engage with.
Yeah.
I have a couple of other things. So show of hands, how many of you kind of consider LinkedIn one of your primary channels in terms of communicating with customers? All right, good. It would have stunk if no one raised their hand. So LinkedIn has a bunch of distinct advantages over, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok even, which is a couple of things. Actually, lots and lots of things. I could go really deep on this. Actually,
just give us a couple.
At BlueStar Nation, we've got an awesome post that goes super duper deep about this, but I'll just leave it at this. Content is tough. I think if you could commit to, you're like, this guy thinks I'm going to post 3 times a week, once a week. Try to come up with something good once a week. But while you're not creating a post, use commenting as content. This is something that marketing circles are starting to talk a lot about, which is I'm going to go and find something relevant to my industry and leave a thoughtful comment. Not a nice, but I'm going to build on this. I'm going to challenge this thought because other people are going to see it. So commenting as content. Do that once a week. Do it twice a week. I know there are people out there with tens of thousands of followers that's been 75% of their strategy. It's not always original content. It's them going and getting on people's radars through commenting. Another thing about LinkedIn that's true, we put a ton of work into BlueStar's corporate account. We've done a pretty good job growing it, but I have found that when I make a post, when Dean makes a post, when John does, not always, but often our reach as individuals is greater than the company reach. So Dean, to your original point in enabling your people, maybe getting them some training, because actually I had a Canadian colleague come up to me today and say, hey, Cordy, we got to get our team trained up on social. And I said, I know a lot of them are willing, but they don't feel confident. They don't really know. Maybe they're not strong writers or they feel like they're putting themselves out there. But I think telling them, especially as the business leaders, it's okay and encouraging it, and then maybe getting them some help, getting that ball rolling is going to really help. And then also what's unique about LinkedIn is if you're interested in something, if someone is interested in something one of your staff or your employees says, they tap on their picture, it takes them to their profile, and they can see where they work. And you have a small army of 4 or 5 people making some noise on social, and before you know it, you're making some noise for your company. Let me see if there's anything else super critical to mention about LinkedIn. One more last thing. What is unique about LinkedIn as a platform, that unless I'm failing to think about it, isn't true about any others, is that you, as someone looking, as an individual, not as a company, but as an individual looking to build a following of relevant people. So let's say I sell into restaurants, I can go to LinkedIn and I can use its search functionality to say, restaurant general manager. I have a list of prospects that I can then go and proactively invite to connect. I don't have to wait for them to follow me. Not to say that every single person is going to accept, but I can take a proactive action to get them connected. What if you did that 8 times a day? 8 requests per day. Let's say you only get 4 of them per day. Over the course of 6 months, you're going to have, not good at quick math, but a significant amount of people who are relevant to your message, right? And I mean, give an intern, give a junior level an employee your login, and that's something they do every day at 8 a.m. as they go and send out. I think there's a limit, but it's a high limit. They go out and send 20 requests, and you come out with a boilerplate or something, and then if you start sharing that decent, valuable content for them, all of a sudden you're going to have hundreds of prospects in your network who are potentially going to see your content. So I love tactical advice. I had to get that one out.
So I want to piggyback on that a bit, because the idea, and I apologize, the path you were going down earlier, this idea of weaponizing your staff and bringing them out to help you bring people into your company stuff and your company socials by either resharing or posting their own stuff and making people think, oh, who's this person? Who do they work for? I want to go check out more about them. I think that lends itself to this other part of this question, which is the organic versus paid. And I'll let you elaborate on this in a moment. My interpretation of this has always been that organic social media is when you want to spread the word, lay a foundation, bringing customers your way when they're ready to come to you. You're just making yourself known. You're putting your presence out there. People are hearing about you, seeing you a lot, whether, again, it's just stuff you're putting out there, your employees are putting out there, other people are reposting stuff from you or liking stuff. And even sometimes when someone likes something, if there's someone like someone you follow on LinkedIn, for instance, or on Facebook or wherever, that you tend to like a lot of their posts, you think their posts are fun, and you're always engaging with their posts and always reading them. Those are the ones that when they like something, probably also get shoved into your feed as like, hey, this person that you seem to enjoy their stuff liked this post. So again, it's a great way to make sure that, if you're getting those people that other people enjoy reading their stuff, then likely their simple likes, let alone if they're making comments, is showing up on other people's feed that you want to get their attention of as well. And then the paid side of things, well, if you're going to start paying for social media, that's because you have a reason that you want them to come your way on your time sooner than later. There's a reason you're bringing them in, because if you're going to pay for it, you better have a good reason to make them stay and want to be there with you. So the difference to me is instead of oh, hey, what's this, when you just organically come across something in your feed, versus we interrupt this broadcast. Because for some folks, we interrupt this broadcast, like I'm scrolling through my feed and this random paid ad came up, better be something that I want to engage with, because if it's not, then I'm kind of annoyed. And maybe I click that button that says, I don't want to hear from this brand ever again. And then now you're never going to show up on that person's feed again, potentially. What do you have to add on that?
I'll keep this brief just to make sure that the points come across. Great piece of advice that I've come across when you're considering paid advertising, and let's just continue to go down the LinkedIn path, although it is possibly the most expensive social platform out there when it comes to paid. That's for a reason, right? The targeting is incredible. But let's just say you're considering LinkedIn paid. What I would suggest is find out what's working organically. You might say, well, James, what do you mean? I get 8 likes on something. Well, wait until you get 20 likes on something and go, okay, what was it on this one that I said? Or use organic as your proving ground for paid social. Make sure that you've got something worthwhile of eyeballs, John, to your point, before you think about putting any money behind it. And then if and when you decide to do paid, first of all, you can take an organic post really on almost any social platform and just boost it, or say, oh, I'm going to take this post that already exists and put money behind it. But my strong suggestion, this is something we run into every single week with, again, we work with organizations like you all the time on your behalf, funded by vendors often. The offer is often missing or weak. We had a conversation after our marketing meetup yesterday. It was a guy from Boston who has a WMS solution, and he literally said to us, I've tried everything, and nothing works. And he said, right now I've got a marketing consultant I'm working with, and we're running radio ads. It's on this business show. Wow. It's been running for 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I mean, again, if that sounds old school, right? But we just restarted doing direct mailers because it's old and no one does it anymore.
Sometimes, yeah.
So now it's not as competitive. But anyhow, and John said, how's it going? He's like, nothing so far. But it's only 2 weeks. And I asked him, what's the offer? And he literally just looked up and said, well, if they're interested, reach out. And I said, well, you should have an offer. And it was like I had said something mind-blowing to him. Oh, well, what do you mean? And we kind of talked about what that could look like. And what I said to him was, when you land a new client, how long do they stay with you? Forever. Okay, so what's the lifetime value of that customer? He didn't say, I don't know if he knew off the top of his head, but ideally it's significant, right? As a warehouse customer, it's WMS plus hardware, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, what if you gave them 6 months of free software and you assigned a value to that? Like, I know it's not all about giving things away and discounting, but if you're running a paid ad, give them a reason to react now. Because otherwise, your expectation for a paid ad should be, I'm only guaranteeing reach and that people are seeing for 2 seconds, for 30 seconds, who knows, that message I'm putting out there. Very infrequently, especially in our world, where we're not selling a $100 wristwatch or something that someone might impulse buy because it looks cool, you're almost never going to get an immediate reaction, meaning or direct conversion. Someone sees your Google ad, your Facebook ad, your LinkedIn ad, they click, they go to the website, they convert. Instead, assuming you're putting effective messaging out there, over time, people are going to see it. And if and when they enter that buying cycle, you're hopeful that they remember the name of your business, they Google search you, and they go to your website and say, hey, I want to talk to sales. At which point, your HubSpot's going to say, ooh, this came in through organic search. When really it was affected by, the ads you've been running. So the real point here is, if you are going to consider running paid ads, think hard and be honest with yourself. What kind of offer would make you react as a buyer? One last thing on this, because it's funny, and I always say it. When I was a kid, my mom used to get the Bed Bath & Beyond mailers. I don't know if you guys remember these. And they would send a variety of different percentage off, 20% off. They would send a 40% off every now and again. Remember my mom having one and go, 20%? I don't even get off the couch for less than 40%. And it stuck with me for 25 years, where I'm like, oh, all right, well, I know what it takes to get Jane off the couch, but I don't know what it would be for your buyers. So, anyway, have an offer.
There you go. Do you have anything you want to add here?
No, but as you were talking, James, I'm thinking to myself, that makes a lot of sense to be very intentional. If you are going to invest in paid advertising, you got to be very intentional. We don't have the kind of dollars like a Coca-Cola or something like that to buy paid advertising just to get our brand and our warm, fuzzy feel out there and things of that nature. Got to be very, very direct with what you're trying to do.
Give them a reason to act
Give
now.
them a reason.
There you go. Great stuff. All right. Well, hey, we're going to, in just a moment, start reviewing some of the websites that you guys sent to us and said, hey, do your worst and tell us what we can improve. But first, as always, a big thank you. You know what? Normally, I'm sitting here and thanking all of our TEConnect sponsors. Today, I'm going to thank you guys.
There you go.
Because we're here at VARTECH, and it wouldn't happen if you guys weren't here. So thank you so much for attending. We appreciate having you here at the show. Hey, if you liked what we're doing up here, you should subscribe to the TEConnect podcast. I mean, we kind of do this stuff week in and week out.
Every week?
We don't always have James, but he's been on the show a lot. You can. I should create like a James Cordy playlist at this point, I think, because
we should, yeah.
You've been on enough, and you can find lots of great marketing tips. But to that point we were talking about earlier, the idea of you do some unique and different stuff. Sometimes Dean and I just do episodes where we just ramble about news topics. We do a Star Wars episode every year. That stuff has no business value whatsoever, really. But it's fun and different and interesting, and it
absolutely
gives you a good reason to listen. Maybe if some other week's topic wasn't particularly something you were particularly interested in. So check out the podcast. You can find us on any platform that you listen to podcasts. You can find us on BlueStar's YouTube page. We always post them there. And hey, more importantly, we like to hear from you folks. Danny, are you here? Did Danny come to this one? No? All right. Danny from Peak Tech is apparently our #1 fan.
Yeah, I ran into him last night.
He was at our marketing meetup. He emailed me when he was on his way up here.
Yep.
He has submitted ideas for the show before.
And what does he get for that idea?
If you do, you get a TEConnect podcast t-shirt. I'm wearing one. Marco here, our amazing producer, who's always usually behind the scenes, and I can actually see him. You get a great t-shirt to wear just for sending an idea to us, even if we don't use it. So please submit those ideas to us. If you are listening to the show or watching whatever, there's always a link in our show notes to send those ideas to us. Or you can always, again, find us on BlueStar's LinkedIn page or email us directly, TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. All right, as I said, I want to wrap up with some folks we asked when everyone signed up. I sent out an email saying, hey, if you want your website reviewed, send it to us. Give us permission to show it and talk about it. What do you want to hear about? Greg Stockard, are you here? All right, hey, Greg. Greg is with Digitrax, and he sent his website in. I'm going to pull that up here on screen real quick. I'm forgetting I got to work across two screens here. All right, here's the Digitrax site. And Greg said he really wanted an overall view of our website. We've been discussing internally what changes we should make, and a third-party review would be great. Everything from structure to content or color palette. So, Cordy, I'm going to let you kick it off here, man. What kind of stuff stood out on digi-trax.com that you want to talk about?
So the first thing, and I'll try not to go super deep since we don't have a real long time on these, but I'm wondering if anyone in the crowd is knowing what I'm going to say, which is that top rotating banner. It looks nice. The images are good. I like the messages. But again, someone's probably only going to spend a couple seconds up there before they start to scroll or before they bounce from the page. I would turn that into a static header. And the one I would use, there's one that is a more of a general message about exactly what you guys do. That one. Eliminate mislabeling and errors. I mean, is it fair, Greg, that that's kind of like high-level basic what your different solutions do? If it's not, you guys could write something similar. But that's what I would do is someone arrives, and it's as if you run into someone in the hallway here, and they say, oh, what does Digitrax do? What's the simplest way you can put it? And then they go, oh, either that's not what I thought this was, I'm out of here, or that's exactly what I thought this was, let me learn more. So then, John, if you don't mind scrolling the page, I think This part right here I like. Let me read that copy up just a little bit. Yeah, I think that's great. It's plain language. It's clear. Again, the image is not bad. I think that doesn't immediately scream stock image, but even if you could borrow one from one of your vendor partners, I know that they're usually pretty good about letting you borrow some of their assets. And then if you don't mind scrolling a bit more. Love incorporating a video. I think that's fantastic. I think overall, my initial impression of the site is it's a good looking site. Is it the cutting edge of the cutting edge? No, but is it professional? Does it look like a company who is reliable? Yes, I'd say so. And then I think if this is the one, I've got it here on my site as well, that it feels like we're jumping around a little bit. It feels like the story could be a little bit more honed in and just, one note, and then we start linking off to some of these areas. I don't have big issues with it, but that would be my kind of high level feedback there is keep it simpler on this homepage and then link off to some of this stuff. So get the ET40HC tablet. So we're talking about solution, problem solving, and then we're kind of diving right into a piece of hardware that feels like maybe a little early for that. But yeah, again, overall, good looking site. I think the amount, and this might sound strange, but I kind of think visually. I look at something and go, gosh, would this just be overwhelming for someone? I don't think so. I think the amount of information you have in there in terms of copy is good. Just too many messages on the homepage.
And I think you guys have a challenge here in the sense that you have a lot, right? You have your message, but you also have products that you're selling. You have labels and ribbons that you're offering. There's a lot here. So the hierarchy of your menuing seems intuitive, right? And so I'm good with that too. So I see, this is, to me, where you were going, Cordy, it's a classic example of, man, we got a lot to say, you know, and do we throw it all on the web, on the front page? Or do we try to tease it and just enable navigation? Because if you have labels and ribbons and stuff that you're selling specifically, well, now your customer base is probably, or the people that are coming here are probably know what they're looking for. So give them an easy way to get to that information really, really quick off of your website would be mine. You don't have to dump it so much, or if you do put it on the front page, make it very, very simple, very, very clean so that they can now get to that section of the website.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to add, it's like the front page scroll definitely feels a little bit long to me because there's a lot of stuff there to cover, obviously. But I also very much appreciate the very clear industry focus that you have here.
Yeah, clearly.
Because, I see some sites sometimes where they have a very strong core focus, but they make their front page look like they can do a little bit of everything for everyone. And you guys are making it very clear that, like, hey, healthcare is our focus. That's our bread and butter. It's what we're gonna play in, and we want you to know about that right off the bat. So. All right, anything else you wanted to add on Digitrax?
Yeah, one other quick comment, which is it seems like you guys both have software and you sell hardware and media supplies. Maybe, and I don't know that I would do it super high up on the page, but I maybe wouldn't wait long before you kind of visually make that really clear. So at the top, you've got your static header with the headline. You've got a image and a little bit of copy. Maybe below that, there's just two almost rounded rectangles that one says labeling software, the other one says hardware and label supplies. So it's like two clear paths, and those would both go to landing pages that go deeper on both of those. To your point, I've looked at this site a couple of times, and I was pretty sure, but I think that you could just make that crystal clear, that those are kind of the two main pillars of your business, software side, then hardware and supplies.
There you go. All right, next up here, we've got Prosper Panama. Hosmar Barrios, are you here? Did I pronounce that correctly? Jospar. All right, gotcha. All right, well, hey, thank you so much for sending this one in. There wasn't anything particular you asked for us to look at on this one, so I'll let you guys kind of jump in here. What are you seeing here? What do you think we could do better? What do you like?
The thing that stood out to me immediately about your site was that it is very product and vendor centric and about them. But also I noticed you have an add to cart functionality. So this is the expectation of the user here is that they may show up, know exactly what they're looking for, add that thing to cart and check out. Does that happen frequently?
Not that much.
Okay, and I wasn't saying it because I figured it didn't. I don't know, if your market is maybe different than ours. But I believe to be true about our industry that often before people are just adding a cart and purchasing, well, in fact, I don't know that they add to cart very often. This is before I'm ready to buy any of these products, I've got questions or I'm building a solution or whatever. And I'm not suggesting that you should remove an add to cart because, hey, if if you get one sale a week, why the heck not, leave it there? But I think that right now it reads very much like an e-commerce site. And what it's missing is your company's story. Why prosper?
Yeah,
Who
why?
are you? How long have you been in business? And I noticed, I did click around the site a bit. I know you have an about us, and I think something about your services. You should be telling that story here. And then this, there's little nitpicky stuff, because again, I'm a designer, that I would adjust about how the logos look. Maybe I'd make them all the same color and all the exact same size, so it's nice and sleek or what have you. There's some font and some styling issues I would play with a little bit, but the biggest thing I have is spend your above the fold area talking about you. What exactly you do, who you do it for, and maybe you're a bit more broad, not so much like Dizzy Tracks where you're just healthcare, but maybe you could say, well, the majority of our customers are like warehousing, manufacturing. Let's see that visually. It would be great to have some sort of hero image that cues that category, if that makes sense, meaning, oh, these guys work in manufacturing and warehousing, and like a nice bold headline that talks about your main technologies. Again, like I said earlier, some proof. Doesn't have to be client logos. It could be quotes. Ask some of your customers, hey, would you give me a super short quote? Because if you don't say that, they're going to give you 2 paragraphs. And you're going to have to clip a little piece of it out. Give me like
indeed.
16 words or less. But that's my big feedback for you, is tell the story of your company, why they should trust you, what kind of experience you have, and then get into the product stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and honestly, I think even if you can just get some pictures of people on the front page, it's one of those old marketing adages that sounds like a cliche, but the whole people buy from people thing. But I think especially in our world, in our industry, it can be a big differentiator. Is if you paid attention during our session today and you watch those those videos that we put out, just introducing to our BlueStar services team and the people of BlueStar. We did it for a reason, because I think people resonate more when they understand that, hey, there's actual people behind the scenes here that are doing this, and I want to work with them because they look just like me and they seem like they would understand my kind of problems.
Yeah, I mean, if you're willing to put a photo of yourself or your team, I think that's immediate. Like, oh, I can trust these people. I know what they look like, and if they wrong me, I'll find them.
Yeah, there you go, exactly.
Versus just an address and a number that might be a Google phone number.
And that is also where that whole stock thing too, because I can't tell you, I'll give you a quick little, very short story here. I used to work for a publishing company. One day I went to the movie theater and saw a little preview before the movie of my company, like a hiring thing, like, hey, we're hiring at our company. All the people in the picture they showed there, this beautiful, young, amazing people that were all nicely dressed up, not a damn one of them worked for our company. I was single at the time. I wish some of them did. There were some lovely ladies up there too, but not any of them worked for our company. So I felt that was a little disingenuous. I'm like, no, you're going to come work for us and you're going to find out, like, no, we're just schlubs like everyone else, like that's not who works there. So truth in advertising can be pretty powerful sometimes.
Agreed.
All right, let's take a look at our last one here. Yes. So the question was on the other page, like
where would you have us?
Where would you have that stuff? Okay.
I would put it pretty close to the top. I mean, depending on how much of a story that is necessary to tell first, I think it could go right below that photo and that bit of copy. Digitrax is instrumental in, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit of an angle. Let's say transforming. I'd put it just below that section probably.
So like right down in here, right?
Yeah, I've replaced that with it.
Okay. After this section, down here where this
But I would have it go
is.
full width. It's its own section. It's not just kind of underneath it. It's large and really clear. It's basically a navigation. It's like a on-page navigation to say, hey, I think it was just two distinct ways you can go on this site. Before the video. Yeah, if you think about it just as kind of layers, like that video and the background image is, a layer. I'd put it right above
Extra
that
layer
line.
right here where the mouse is going across.
Yep.
Yeah.
3 boxes, software, hardware, supplies.
Cool. All right, last up here we have Technical Services GD.
This is a site where
I hope
it's
this
just
one
built,
opens,
right?
works up. Yes, so this is actually a site I think is still in development, is not officially ready, but thankfully, Lander Leo, you here? Thanks, Lander. You sent us a preliminary look at this so we could take a look at it while you guys are still actually working on it. So kudos to you for doing that. So, all right, what do you got on this one, buddy?
So they are not breaking the rule of the header. I like that the header, it has some movement in it, but it's static in terms of the message.
Yep.
Empowering business with cutting-edge technology solutions. I like that. If you could be more specific in the type of tech, and I don't know that you could, but if you are specifically involved in printing based on those logos, it looks like maybe printing in signage, printing point of sale, perhaps. Be as specific as possible without,
without having 50 words of stuff, yeah.
Right, and excluding. Well, yeah, you don't want to have it's the right length of a headline. I just think the more specific you can be, the better, so they know if they're in the right place or not. You want someone to land on your website and immediately know if they are where they thought that they were going, especially when running, whether it's organic or paid ads. One of the things I recently had a newish designer join the team, and what I explained to her was, if we're running ads and we're designing ads to run, they should match the website in a way where there's never any confusion that, am I on the right page or not? So anyway, like what you're doing in the header. I like the logos. I kind of like that rotating. Honestly, if that could be client logos, I might like that even better. Trusted by several companies in whatever space you're in retail, trusted by lots of great retailers, and that's kind of your social proof is the buzzword we use. Just to say, hey, other people are doing it, you should work with us, right? So maybe that could become a carousel of client logos, comprehensive technology solutions for modern businesses.
I got a quick question here on the logo thing. I'm just curious from your all's point of view, because this is something I don't know at all. Do your customers care what vendors you carry? Or do people come to you and say, hey, I'll buy from you only if you have Zebra? Okay, we got a mixed message here. Some think you do, some we don't. Okay, I'm just curious. Because one of those things I'm never sure.
That's a great question.
Because I don't know. I think myself sometimes, there are situations where I think I would care. Do you have a certain product that I appreciate? If you don't, then I'm not going to mess with you at all. But
I'd say
just curious about that.
It's just my guess. I've never been in these guys' shoes, but I'd say people in manufacturing and warehousing almost definitely have their preferences.
That would make sense. Certain industries, I'm sure,
Maybe
do.
the better way to put it is newer business owners probably don't know, what's what.
True.
Even your veteran retailer is going to know these brands, and I think it lends some credibility. You see some of these logos and go, oh, these guys are dealing in wares that are legitimate, so this is a good company.
Yeah.
I love the layout here. Comprehensive product range, industry leader in technology. Again, the same feedback as the header. I just think you could probably be a bit more specific in some of this, although again, I'm at an angle. The middle one, comprehensive product range, is pretty on point. It's really just the first one. Industry leader in POS and whatever the
Keep
other
going,
tech
John.
solution
Is it deep? Keep going.
We got the wide shoes technical services, global reach, quality assurance, competitive pricing,
Our
our
partners.
partners.
Yeah, I'm kind of liking this site.
I like
I think
the
it's simplified.
I
I
like
think
the
you can boil
cleanliness
it
of it.
down. Yep.
Yeah, I do.
Yep.
It's very straightforward. I also like that you emphasize your differentiators. Again, we've talked about that a few times here.
sure.
That, being able to differentiate who you are from everyone else, because there's plenty of other people doing potentially the same thing as you, is important. And I think you've emphasized a lot of that up front here too. So,
When you guys do installations with customers, do you capture photos?
looks like we got a few photos here that might have been.
Yep. Should definitely start doing that, or even again, if you can get them to do it on your behalf, seeing real use cases, real customers. My opinion goes a really long way. Again, yeah. When you go back for training, is that what you said?
Okay. Yeah.
Get some photos,
Yeah.
get some video clips, shoot it.
That first one, yeah, okay, I thought so. I thought this looked like a legit photo that you took from an actual install or something.
Another quick concept. So I was just going to make the suggestion, man, if you can get someone just on your phone to speak on your behalf, just to say something quick. It's a 20, 30-second clip about what it was like to work with your company. That would be awesome. But the real point I want to make here is repurposing content. So if you can get someone to shoot a video for you, that video turns into a text testimonial that's on your webpage. That video goes on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever. Let's think about how we can take one format and use it, in different formats and in different ways. Yeah. But yeah, I would love a little bit more of that. Again, it's a really nice to have, but I think that, I'll use this term again, the social proof, the testimonials, the more that you can show proof of what you're claiming, the better. But ultimately, I think this website's looking really good. It's nice and clean.
Yeah.
So yeah, no big notes here.
Pretty impressive. All right. Well, again, thank you guys so much. We appreciate all of you that submitted sites to us to review. If we didn't get to yours, or if you want a deeper dive, or if you're listening to this later and you're like, hey, I'd like these guys to tear apart my website too, send it over to us. TEConnect at BlueStarInc.com. We'll be happy to take a look at it and give you some feedback. Honestly, I'll probably just send it over to Cordy and let him do that. And if it takes a few weeks, don't be upset, because Cordy's a busy guy. But at some point, I promise you, he will have things he wants to talk about.
I was going to make that same offer. I promise I'll send you at least a few bullet points on your website if you send it to me.
There you go. All right, hey, let's wrap things up as always with our favorite segment on each episode, What's Tech Connecting with You? This is where we talk about something in the world of tech, business, science, innovation, something we feel like chatting about today. So, James, I'll let you kick it off. What's Tech Connecting with you right now?
What's Tech Connecting with me is a tool called Runway. Dean kind of forced my hand on experimenting with it just before we came to VARTECH. In fact, some of what you saw in his Monday presentation was a result of me playing around with Runway. I mentioned Midjourney earlier. Midjourney is generative AI for still or static imagery, photographs. Runway, it's actually Runway ML, like machinelearning.com, is the same thing for video. And it is really incredible. So you can go in there and just type in a text prompt and it will spit out a 10-second video. And then you can extend that video by another 10 seconds. It will ask you, well, how do you want to extend it? Another really cool use case is you can take a still image. So we had an image from one of our partners called Smartify Media. They do in-store displays that run kind of programmatic advertising. They didn't have any videos. They had a still image. Took the still, put it in a Runway and said, just make the cars on the street outside go. Turned it into a video. You didn't believe me.
No, I didn't. I absolutely did not believe you. Yeah.
It's really neat. So, something that if we ever found the time, I think would be really fun would be to try to create a commercial purely out of these clips from Runway.
No doubt.
In our spare time, John. But
anyway,
Runway ML is what's Tech Connected with me.
That's awesome. Yep.
Good stuff. All right. What about you, Dean? What's
okay, so raise your hand if you're a dog owner. Oh, yeah, we got a lot of dog owners here. Bark Air, a dog-focused airline, took its first flight a few months ago. Now, let me ask you dog owners a question. Would you buy a flight for your dog and, okay, yeah. This is really, it's only
You're
for
the target
dogs.
customer.
You are the target customer. Initially, flights only go from New York to L.A., but it's you and your dog is actually the primary and you are the secondary in this because
you're the baggage.
Yes, no, you don't go under anything but your dog is going to get what they call white paw service. So the dog's going to get cabin configuration that they like. It's a dog centric cabin configuration. The dogs get the noise canceling earmuffs and the beverages of their choice and stuff like that.
I don't get this stuff when I fly.
You're not on Bark Air, dude.
Clearly.
So what would you pay for that ticket? So from New York to L.A., what would you pay? Just anybody. Yeah, what would you pay? Oh, they pay you. There you go. Good answer. Yeah. $800, you're not even close. $6,000 is what's the cost for this. So clearly it's not, it's not.
The New York to LA part of this is starting to make a lot more sense.
Well, Bark Air's got a long way to go to convince us, right? That call to action better be pretty darn good.
No doubt.
All right, that's what I got. Anyway, what's Tech Connecting with you?
All right, this is a quick one that actually will resonate with the folks here at VARTECH. Restaurant kiosks. A lot of folks are out there installing this stuff and
for sure.
wondering hey, is this working? Does this actually make sense? Well, apparently there's been some studies that show that in some ways, restaurant kiosks are actually leading to less being ordered by the folks that are using them. And before you panic and go, I got to bail out of the restaurant kiosk business, the reason for that is basically how they're set up. So the study showed that if the kiosks were set up where anybody can just walk up and get in line behind a kiosk, people felt rushed if they were making their order and someone's standing right behind them waiting. They felt like I can't take my time, I can't look for options, I can't scroll through and decide. I have to just hurry up and make a decision because there's someone waiting, breathing down my neck, and they're going to be mad if I don't. Instead, what they recommended is have a single line that filters to a space with multiple kiosks. Because if everyone's waiting in line and then they get a stop somewhere and then there's 5 or 6 kiosks and as soon as one opens, they walk over to it, people no longer feel rushed because there's not someone directly waiting for them.
Just like the grocery store.
That's good insight.
Yeah, exactly. So a little bit of advice there if you're working the kiosk route and you're helping somebody make an install and they're not quite sure how they want to set it up.
You get more hardware sales out of that. We need more
There
kiosks.
You go, yeah. You can't just have one. You got to have 2 or 3 at least because you got to give people, 6. You don't want them sweating over this. So your little tip for you there. All right. Hey, that does it for us.
Yes, sir.
We came in just in time on this.
Yep.
If you guys have any, again, further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Please check out the podcast. I showed up here. We got our playlist on our YouTube page. Thank you again so much.
Thank you to our fabulous audience here. Come on,
VARTECH. Until next time, stay connected. TEConnect podcast is brought to you by Elo and their new Quick Ship program, which is expediting deliveries of select Intel-based, all-in-one touchscreen computers.
Nice. Quick Ship.
Now we're talking about quick shipping some Intel products and Intel-powered products for you. All right, the Quick Ship initiative, it promises readily available inventory of Elo Pause and iSeries 2 models with various processors, memory, and storage options. Additionally, they include seller-on models in the program at reduced prices. Elo will ship applicable SKUs to BlueStar within 10 business days. Check out the link in the show notes for a list of eligible products. Quick Ship program is limited to North America and Latin America at quantities of 20 units or less. Contact the BlueStar Elo team with any questions.